you doing today? Welcome to T.O.L Studios, and we've been learning in the past few lessons how to play at this position of the guitar neck, and then to play some notes here, and then here, and so we basically learned 4 of those. Now we're going to learn our 5th section, and we're going to be starting here at the 10th fret, which is going to be our D note. And again, I'm not going to waste time on this lesson. If you're not sure why I know that's a D, you could go back to any of the lessons I've talked about it, but definitely lesson 1, we talked about the E, then the F, and then the G, and why we sometimes are going up 2 frets. There's our B, and why we only went here to C, and then D. So that's how I know that's a D. Okay, so make sure you know that by now, because you're going to always struggle when I'm trying to show you a new pattern. You're going to be too busy. Well, how do you know if that goes there? Okay, and then again, if as long as you know it, and if you are still wondering, well, hey, I know it, but why does he know that? That's coming up when I talk about scales. You'll fully get why I'm saying that's a D. Just make sure you know it's a D, and I'll explain why D goes there and why D wouldn't go there. Okay, just know D goes on the 10th fret. Okay, so we're going to take our first finger on the 10th fret for D. Then we're going to stretch up to the E with our 3rd, and then the F is going to go here. Now, I'm going to point out a couple things. If you've got an acoustic without that little cutaway, and this is what a cutaway is. Acoustic usually goes right up to here. It doesn't even have this. A lot of times it goes right here, and then it's right here. So when I get you playing up here, it feels weird because there's a lot of wood right there. So remember, you don't always have to play everything here. I'll be showing you in later lessons how we can play these notes on different strings, and almost anything you can't play here, you can just re-put them on different strings and play them here. And I'll explain that much better later. So, but you'll be able to get through the patterns I'm showing you. Even there's one more to go, you'll be able to do it. It just might be a little uncomfortable. Also, as you went up the neck and learned new patterns, you probably started to notice where sometimes it felt harder to make your stretches, and sometimes it might have felt like when we were back on this pattern, it might have felt like your finger didn't want to make that stretch. And I know I've heard students say this, and I've said it before, where I'm never going to be able to make that. I've got these short little fingers, and mine are very short for a guitar player. Ideally, yes, if we've got nice, long, slinky fingers, but you get what God gives you, and you be happy with it. So those are your fingers. Mine are short, okay? They can do just about anything. You learn to stretch, so the more you do it, before you know it, these stretch just a little farther, okay? It might not seem like much, but that helps, like you just grew a little bit, okay? So you do this over and over. That used to feel so hard to go from there to there. I used to never be able to lay my hand down and go right into that, like that. Mine would have looked like this. And yours probably has too, but you do that over and over, and this sometimes, misses. You do that over and over. Before you know it, instead of doing this, it's going to start going like this, and this. And before you know it, there's hardly any movement. It's just your fingers. I always say it kind of just looks like the itsy bitsy spider. I think your fingers are doing all the walking, and that's what you want, okay? So again, and then we did the same thing in all these patterns. So for today, we're up here at the 10th fret on the D, and then we're going to go to E with our 3rd finger, F with the 4th, then we're going to come down here to get G, then our A, then our B. And again, I pull my fingers far away so you can see what I'm doing. When I play, you'll notice I keep those real close, and I'll point this out here in a minute. So again, let me review that. We have D on the 6th string, 10th fret, E, 12th fret, F, 13th fret, switch down to the 5th string, 10th fret, and that's our G, then our A, then we're going to go back a fret to B, then C, then D, and that's on the 12th fret. Then we're going to switch strings, so we're right here on the 9th fret, and that's our E. then our F, then our G. Now this one, kind of like this last pattern, we're going to shift back up. So you kind of get like a two shift thing in this one. That's our, going to be our A note, then our B, C, then we're going to switch strings, 10th fret, D, E, F. So you're going to do that, and remember the same thing. You might want to do those two strings. I'll kind of point out why. Do that, over and over till you got it memorized. For me, it was real easy to do this by mistake. When I learned this pattern, I accidentally would play the pattern I taught you here, which would have been our first pattern, second pattern, the third pattern I showed you there. And it was real easy that I memorized. I was doing this, and accidentally, because this looks like it's the same, I would accidentally add this, and you can hear that note doesn't belong there. If you can't, you'll learn to hear it, but trust me, you don't want that note normally there. And you definitely don't want to sit on like that. It's kind of like the whole thing just fell apart. That's why you want, instead of this, so it adds a, and then, okay, and I'll explain that one again when we do scales, why it's this note, not this one, in case you can't hear that, but for now, just trust me, it doesn't belong in there. Okay, so I could point out a bunch of those back here on this pattern. We learned this to kind of do that, and to do this. Okay, and then we finally learned, after this pattern, we learned this one, and we learned to do this. So sometimes it was easy to mess that up for this pattern, because they're close. Sometimes students actually go there, because it looks like this one, or sometimes, so it's really easy to mix part of this one up for part of that, or part of this one. Memorize them, and that's why I'm going to tell you, that's why you should say the letters. That'll help you out too. And you're going to be thinking of it as, and also trying to listen to it as well. Okay, so the one we did today, 10th fret, D, E on the 12th, F on the 13th, switch strings, and I'm on the 10th fret, that's G, 12th fret, A, then we're going to slide back with our first finger, and that's on the 9th fret, and that's your B, then your C, D, then we're going to shift back with our first finger, and get to our E, then our F, then our G, and I should have said that here actually, then you're going to shift up with your first finger, and that's me on the 10th fret. That's your A, B, C, D, E, F. And then you're going to do that one eventually backwards, and same thing, take it little by little till you can do what you see me doing. But slowly again, I'm doing F, E, D, then C with the pinky, B, A, then I'm going to shift back with my pinky to G, F, E, and then I'm on my D, C, B. Now here I'd shift back with this finger, kind of like I talked about in this one, because you want to do it the same way when you went up the scale. So that's my A. I'll do this one more time so you can see that. G, F, E, D. So I'll kind of point this out again when you're doing these, and that's D, E, F, G. Since we do that G, A, and we shifted this way to B, C, D. We're going to make sure when we eventually come back down the scale, and I'm going to just go backwards from this note, which is D, we want to make sure we go D, C, B, and don't go with this one. Go back with this to A, G, That way I did it the same way, same fingers, when I went this way. Okay, now the thing I was talking about earlier, these little things, again, over and over. Watch my fingers. I won't do it real fast, but just watch how they look like they're floating over the strings. See what I mean? How they're hovering right over those strings? Now, I'll do this fast in a minute, but I wanted to do it slow, because you'll notice when I go faster, it just looks like they're just floating right over the string. I'll show you here in a minute what I'm saying. Okay, so if I go... But notice how it didn't look like I was going. Okay, if you try to do those right now, like real fast, guarantee yours is going to sound like... You're going to... So take them slow, but the more you do that, your fingers are going to do exactly like mine. And again, they're not real long fingers. They're short. But they're making all those stretches, even up here in these weird frets. I mean, I'll teach you later on. I don't do it often, but that's a good stretch for these little fingers. So you don't normally need to do that anyway, so it's not a big deal, but if these can learn to do it, you could learn to do it too. So take your time on that pattern. We got one to go, then we can start talking about what scales are. Thanks for watching T.O.L Studios.